I have reviewed every single Ferrari in this game, and here's what I found. In this video, I will break down the core stat and in-game utility of each Ferrari. Important thing to mention here is that some of these cars may not be good for rating-based multiplayer system, but they definitely compete well in a rank-based multiplayer system. Moreover, it depends upon the lobby, but do give them a shot in a rank-based multiplayer system. With this ultimate Ferrari review, for each car, I will give it a rating out of 10 based on their performance in a rating-based multiplayer system, and if you disagree, then let me know your rating in the comment section. First up, we have Ferrari Roma. The Ferrari Roma is pretty iconic car in real life, but in the game it is like a worse version of Lamborghini Asterion, just bad in every single way. The car manages to go at the speed of 345 km per hour. The acceleration at 77 is pretty low. This is not something that you would say that it is pleasant to use. The handling is fine, but the drifting is not good. The drifting radius is wide and it loses speed pretty easily. The nitro stat looks sufficient, but it is really of no use. The car is only good for collectible, and after you max it out, it will only collect dust in your garage. So the proud feeling that you get after acquiring a car, you won't really get that with this car. 1.5 out of 10. Next up, you might disagree with me, but I think Ferrari A12 Superfast is worth to mention at this point. It is the car that got the most irrelevant after its release. It is not bad, but it is just so average that it got neglected, and with the passage of time, it has lost its relevance so much that it is considered as bad and useless. Now again, the car is decent, but it is just irrelevant. As for the stat, you are looking at the top speed of 368 km per hour. The acceleration at 81 looks decent, but it is of no use. For the handling and drifting, it is like a stiff brake with wide drifting radius. The nitro is decent, but it is of no use. Only way to get this car is from trade coin, and I didn't even bother to go for it at the first place. Only good car which is worth obtaining with the trade coin is Senna 1, but that is a topic for a different video. So pretty useless, not a thing that would impress you. 1.5 out of 10. Some people say that it is better than F12tdf, which it might be, but F12tdf is more useful and pretty easy to get for a beginner than this car. Next here we have Ferrari F50. This car brings some nostalgia from the good old Need for Speed SE2 games. This car sits at the very bottom of Class B, and it is a pay-to-win version of Aston Martin DB11. Now it is coming in a car hunt to all player base, and the performance that this car has to offer, well, it is not terrible, but it is not competitive either. Since there are so many better cars in its class, there is really no usage for this car. This is like a very niche scenario where you will not use this car unless you specifically need it. As for the stat, this car has a top speed of 352 km per hour. The main stat that hampers this car a lot is the acceleration, which is at 73. The handling and drifting is fine, it is decent, and even if it is worse, it is really does not matter because you are not going to use it. In my video about 73 cars, I also recommended not to spend token on this car. This car appear in the car hunt and you can go for it, but while you go for it, keep in mind that there is nothing much that this car will offer. 2 out of 10. Next we have Ferrari J50. It is one of the earliest release in the game. If you really ask for the performance of this car is not really useful. The car goes at the top speed of 363 km per hour. The acceleration stat is at 82, which is something that I'm not gonna comment for this car. The handling and drifting is fine, but this is not really something that you would rely on much. And the nitro stat at 64 just works out. This car sits at low end of class A and it can do good if you drive it well. But the question is that who will do it? The answer is no one. If you are meant to use it, then I would say use GTR instead. For better options, you can use McLaren P1 and Aventador SV Coupe, but there are a lot better class A car which you can use. To ascertain the repute of this car, there is not a whole lot to discuss. 2 out of 10. Next up, we have Ferrari Monza SP. And as we are starting with the LP cars, this car delivers way less for its price. You can think of it as a worse version of F12tdf in Class C. As for the stat of this car manages to go at the speed of 333 km per hour. The car has decent acceleration at 82, but it is of no usage at this point. The handling is fine and the drifting is a pain in the butt. The car loses speed pretty easily, and the struggle of the sluggish drifting, you will feel it when you are drifting. The nitro stat is decent, but it really does not matter. I would say it is actually a problem for this car as to where this car sits. Yeah, it is Class C, which means that if you prefer another Ferrari which should be easy to drive, then you have Ferrari 599 XX Evo as an option. The problem with the Monza is that on the internet I did not find any review of this car in Asphalt Legends Unite, and I would say that this is like the niche scenario where you will not use this car unless you specifically need it. 2.5 out of 10. Next up is Ferrari 296 GTB, and I think that Ferrari needs to see what GameLove has done with this car. We all know that in the game the performance of this car is bad, but when I saw it on the wider internet, I could not understand why they did so bad with this car. Ferrari 296 GTB in real life has a V6 engine and it is a hybrid. It looks gorgeous both in real life and in the game, and it is relatively a smaller car compared to other Ferrari. So with 818 horsepower it has, the 296 GTB is scary fast, which is why I decided to buy one for myself, the toy one. Okay, now let's come to the performance of this car in the game. The car manages to go at the speed of 355 km per hour. It would have been an Asterion in Class B, but they put it at the top of Class C. Okay, mismatched performance for the rank that this car has. The acceleration at 81 is fine. The handling feels fine, but it tends to perform like a boat, because I have this car at 3 star and it feels that way. The drifting is not so amazing, and finally, let me guess, the devs might be thinking that the nitro should be kept low, in an attempt that this car would have good drifting anyway, so it does not need much of a nitro. But given that it does not drift well, the nitro is not enough. Now you all probably say that what's the point of creating all the drama that Ferrari should see this? You can simply say that the car has bad performance. Well, the nightmare just does not end here. When this car was debuted in those days, if you 360 in this car, you will see the driver swinging under the car. Many of you at some point have seen that. With all of this stuff, I would give it 3 out of 10 rating. Maybe useful, but not for me. Next here, we have Ferrari FXX K. Just like the Laferrari, this also brings back some memories while being the old loading screen of the game. Then it changed to Revuelto, and now we have ALU loading screen. This car is the track version of the Laferrari, which tends to perform even worse. It is one of the worst S-Class car in the game. I'm not sure if the Centenario is worse than this car or not, but let me know, which one do you think is worse, Ferrari FXX K or Lamborghini Centenario? As for the stat of this car, the car manages to go at the speed of 378 km per hour. The acceleration at 83 is decent. The handling and drifting are both thumbs down, and the nitro is pretty strong, but of no usage. Fun fact, when I was a noob, I wanted to get my hand on Triumph Nemesis, and I did not have the ego stat to do it. And as I was getting kicked out of one club to the other, I distinctly remember the day when I joined one, and slowly but surely the blueprint count crept up, and I managed to unlock it. And I was so on top of the moon as if this had been the ESCO. It did help me getting my hand on Triumph, but after that, nothing much to describe, to be honest, because it is of no use, and you won't really use this car until you specifically need it. 3 out of 10. In the streak of some useless Ferraris of the game, we also have Ferrari Laferrari. This is the car that you will drive for the very first time when you download the game. I don't know if that intro is still present after the Unite expansion or not, but anyway, this car only looks sleek. It does not have anything that you see and say that yeah, it is spectacular performance. Now, warning for beginner. At some point in career, you will find yourself in a situation where you will be in need of this car, but you will not have it. Whenever you encounter that type of situation, I would say take a step back, relax, and just wait for the moment when you will be able to get this car. There are chances that you may not find blueprints for this car pretty easily, but while being impatient, don't waste any precious resources on this car. As for the stat, the car manages to go at the speed of 379 km per hour. The acceleration at 80 is negotiable. The handling and drifting is awful. Word can't even describe as to how bad they really are. In simple words, even if you get this car at gold for free, you will simply won't use it. This is how bad it actually is. The nitro efficiency is decent, but the overall performance is so mad that it really does not matter. I wanted to give it 2 out of 10 rating, but 3 out of 10 at best, mainly for nostalgia. Next up, I have to mention Ferrari SF90 XX Stradale. But there's a problem with this car. I don't have anything to mention about this car because I did not get to try it at max free try, and there's not a whole lot of information about it on the internet so that I can establish an opinion. Due to this reason, my verdict as for now is reserved for this car. If you know anything about this car, then let me know. I have this car at 1 star and it feels okayish. Anyway, do let me know your thoughts on this one. Blank out of 10. Next up, I have to nominate Ferrari Daytona SP3. I also reserve my opinion for this car because I don't have it and I could not find any review of this car on the internet. But unlike SF90 XX, I would say this car is bad. I am not aware of the stat of this car, but this car is a boat of class C. Just like the AMG GT Black Series, it is awful to drift. Moreover, let me know your thoughts on this one. As for the rating, blank out of 10 for now. Next up, we have Ferrari 488 GTB. It is like a buff version of the Lamborghini Asterion. Now, to be very honest with you, as a 4-star car, this car has the potential to deliver. But who is patient enough to try and deliver through this car? As for the stat, the car manages to go at the speed of 360 km per hour. For a quick context to the reference that I said earlier as to who will try to deliver from this car, because you already have Corvette Grand Sport in the game to drive. The acceleration stat at 79 is low, but the handling is not that much agile and the drifting is bad. It loses speed pretty easily while drifting and the nitro is strong. Now the problem is that it is a 4-star car, and the cars at this star count always come with some sort of compromise compromises. And this car has its own. Now it is being said that you can beat cars like Grand Sport and Huracan with this car, but as to my experience, honestly I saw people using Huracan and Grand Sport instead of this car because they're all OG in the game. It may not be hard to beat a Huracan in this car, but no one is gonna bother to learn driving this car when they have Huracan already. I hope you get the point. And if you want to try beating a Huracan with this car, go for it. 3 out of 10. Next here we have Ferrari F40. This is one of the classic Ferrari and I like the aesthetic of this car. The car in real life sounds pretty amazing, however in the game its performance is low I would say. It is sluggish but can work wonder in Ghost Slipstream. But while you go for it, keep in mind that there is nothing extraordinary happening here. As for the stat, the car manages to go at the speed of 354 km/h, exactly the same as the Gallardo. The pivotal thing that hampers this car against the Gallardo is the acceleration, which is at 72. The handling of this car is fine but the drifting is pretty sluggish. The car is pretty grounded, therefore it does not perform at its very best. The nitro stat is pretty decent, but at this point I don't think it can save the car's grace a whole lot. This car is available in the Clash store and you can also get this car from the car hunt. It is a decent car but not so much extraordinary. As for multiplayer, it is more suitable for Ghost and Ghost Slipstream series because it is not so great to use in Classic when all the cars are ramming into you. So very mediocre at best. 4.5 out of 10. Next here we have Ferrari 599XX Evo. Remember the Monza that we discussed earlier? Yeah, this was the contender that I was talking about. It's a great C-class car. Now some people call it overranked like it does not belong as to where it sits or that it is just a glorified Pininfarina H2. But I'm not gonna embrace any of those comments because it's a great car. As for the stat, the car manages to go at the speed of 335 km/h. The acceleration stat at 80 is good. The handling and drifting is extremely good and the nitro is long lasting. It is one of the strong contenders in Class C and it appears through Key Hunt. If you are a beginner who wants an agile and easy to drive car, then I would recommend this car to you. The other smooth and sleek contenders are Brabham BD62 and Porsche Panamera. In multiplayer, this car is solid. 5 out of 10. Next up, we have Ferrari F12tdf. And I would straight up say it out loud, this car has a lot of potential. And you will start to see it in multiplayer if Game Love just fixes its drifting. Because the handling of this car, well it may not be the best, but it is somewhat digestible. But for the drifting, you will spill your drink most of the time when you see how bad it actually is. And the drifting is the only bad factor that hampers this car, as for now. Now enough with the drifting or the stuff that is broken and let's talk about the rest of the stat. The car goes at the speed of 375 km/h. The acceleration at 78 is low. The handling and drifting, I don't need to mention that over again, and for the nitro, this is what makes this car really good. But there is one issue, and it is concerning enough that I should reconsider the phrase that does it really have a lot of potential? Well, the honest answer is yes, if the handling and drifting got fixed. It is pretty easy to obtain car and given the rest of the stat, it can do a lot for beginner. But since the handling is broken, what really hampers this car is that in the presence of easy to drive car, which may tend to go a bit slower, it does not really make sense to use this car. Moreover, high-end cars like F1M are also getting more and more accessible, pushing this car down at the ladder of utility. But looking at it alone, if you manage to tame it, it can do the job for you. 5 out of 10. Next up, we have Ferrari 488 GTB Challenge Evo. This car is one of the well-rounded cars sitting at top of Class B. Think of it like a Ferrari 599XX Evo in its class. Not the fastest, but well-rounded and a good car. This car is not really king of its class even on the day of its release. Now whether or not it's a Huracan killer, it really is the matter of your preference. I have this car at 3 or 4 star and the performance is okayish. When you look at the performance of this car manages to go at the speed of 365 km/h, so it is like a contender to the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento. The acceleration is 82, which is fine, and if compared with the Sesto Elemento, that car has acceleration at 86. The handling and drifting of this car are enough to get the job done. They are good and sufficient on most of the track. The nitro efficiency is strong. Now when you ask that should I go for it, I really can't recommend it. I think your tokens are better spent on cars like F1M and Revuelto. If you think of the notion of it being a Huracan killer, well it really depends if you have this car or not. Whether you do or you don't, chances are you might as well carry on using the Huracan. Moreover, let me know your opinion. 7 out of 10. Next up, we have Ferrari Enzo Ferrari. Named after Enzo himself, I have a lot of respect for this car. No matter where I look at this car, whether in the game or on the wider internet, I love the look of it. The engine sound and all, but as to how it is in the game, well, it is a solid contender to the B-class competition. It was added during the Ferrari season in the game in 2020. I gotta say that many great cars were released back to back in 2020, like Aston Martin Valhalla, McLaren F1M, and then this one. This car is one of the best Legend Pass car added in the game, but while I like it, it also bothered me a lot that the exclusivity of this car had never been brought down. I think I know why. One of the most frustrating instances instance was with the release of the Wanderlust season, where this car was released in a weekend rampage event. And I was thinking that heck yeah, I would finally be able to unlock it. But the event every week was giving you 4 to 6 blueprint. Now it is available at Garage level 48 and it is still not easy to get it. As for the stat of this car, the car goes at the speed of 379 km per hour. The only bad thing about this car is its acceleration, which is at 75. The handling and drifting are not exceptional, but they are pretty good, and the nitro is strong to support the low acceleration. So just like the Enzo song of DJ Snake, I love this car. To summarize this car performance in a sentence, it's a downgraded F1LM, 7.5 out of 10. Next we have Ferrari Laferrari Aperta. For some strange reason, whenever I pointed out this car to the people, they did not really respond well in its favor. I'm not talking about YouTube at this point because this is the first time that I'm addressing about the Aperta here. But yeah, they did not respond well to it. And the key culprit is, I guess, is its somewhat not so great drifting. And granted, it is not so bad as you might think. In the name of the performance, you are looking at the top speed of 379 km per hour. So, almost the same like Enzo. The acceleration at 81 is, I would say that it is enough, because it is neither top notch nor low. The reason I said that it is enough is because the top notch barrier in the game is now touching 90 stat. You can look at the Mac Mercury. The handling and drifting, like we discussed earlier, it is not bad. The handling is somewhat stiff, but it is enough for all the possible twisty track. Just like the drifting of the Huracan, it is not perfect, but it is enough. Same is the case for this one too. And the nitro, it is decent. The Aperta had been exclusive for the most part. It was released with a harder event and the rerun was hard too for the most part. But in the current meta of Class A, Aperta as for now is enough to get the job done. It may not be used much, but it is an evergreen car that can get you podium whenever you use it. Now the performance can vary in a rating or rank based multiplayer system, but I tested it and aside from my few skills issues, this car delivered just fine. 7.5 out of 10. Next we have Ferrari F8 Tributo. And right off the bat, this is one of the great A-class car that you can get. I think it is available through Legends Store, but whichever the way you get it, it really does not matter because you won't regret using it. This car is extremely good and upgraded version of Rimac Concept 1 and Honda Electric Dendrobium. When you look at the stat of this car manages to go at the speed of 375 km per hour. You will probably ask here that this is not the fastest of a car, then what makes it so special? Well, it is actually rest of the stat. The acceleration at 83 is not the top notch, but I would say it is sufficient. The handling and drifting are on a whole another level. The car has the second highest handling stat in the game. Here I would say that it is one of the highest, if any car had further beat this stat. But let me know. And the nitro is enough to get the job done, helping this car maintain its top speed. When you look at this car is not for straight track and for slipstream season. It will dominate the competition on twisty track. Overall, you will have nothing to complain about this car except top speed. But if you complain about that, I assume that you already have cars like a Mola or Jaguar that can go faster than this car. So I would say 7.5 out of 10. Extremely good car, but just a bit slow if you prefer speed. Lastly, we have Ferrari SF90 Stradale. It is in S-Class, but it is not so fast. It's more like a contender to the Battista and Lamborghini Sian FKP37. And let me know which one you pick, Battista, Sian or this car. When you look at the performance of this car manages to go at the speed of 379 km per hour with its perfect nitro boost. The acceleration at 86 is strong. It accelerates extremely quickly. The handling and drifting are not like leading in any sort of way, but they are good. The car is nimble and the drifting is extremely good. And the nitro, well, since this car is slow but well rounded, you have plenty of nitro. Enough to deal with the perfect nitro boost stuff. Now, should you spend token on this car? Well, no, because it's not worth that price. The car is available in Legends Store, but it is at 54 or so garage level. So, will take time for you to get there, but eventually you will get it. So spend your precious resources on better cars. I would say even in lower classes. As for the performance, it's a joy to drive, and there is nothing much that you can complain about this car, except the speed. 8 out of 10. This wraps all the Ferrari that are in this game, except the two which I mentioned earlier, but we will discuss them later. Let me know what next major car lineup you wanna see next. Want to know more about your favorite Lamborghini? Make sure to check out this video next.